In order to maintain the non-stick seasoning on our cast iron, you need to know how to clean it the right way. And soap and water on cast iron is a no-no unless you want to be reseasoning your pan all of the time, which most of us don't want to do that. So with our cast iron pan, you'll have multiple issues of ways that you're going to want to be cleaning it. Sometimes you have stuck on baked goods, like delicious sourdough brownies. And other times you'll have fat and oil and different food particles, especially if you've been doing things more like meat, sometimes vegetables or a mixture in your pans. So if you can't use soapy water, what's the best way to keep these clean and non-stick? Well, honestly, the fastest and the easiest way to keep them clean is to clean them while they are still hot before the food has had time to cool and really become stuck on. But even if you can't get to cleaning it right then and there, which is why I actually left these from yesterday so I could show you, it's still very easy to clean them. The first thing that we're gonna clean is this one, which has had multiple layers of butter, a little bit of bacon grease, and my son actually fried some burritos in this yesterday. So it's been sitting for over 24 hours. The first thing I like to do is, it always cleans better, especially when there's fat or grease, when it's still warm. So because this has obviously been cooled, we're gonna go ahead and bring this, I'm just gonna put it over medium, about right at medium heat. And I'm gonna add a little bit of water to this, just because it's not just melted fat. There's actually some food particles in here. If it was just grease, you could just heat it without the water just to get it in liquid form and then wipe it out and you'd be good to go. But because this actually has some food particles in there, I wanna make sure that I've got a little bit of hot water to lift that out. So we're just gonna get that until it's nice and steamy. Okay, so you can see there's like food particles and there's definite oil that's coming up on this. So we're just gonna go ahead and turn that heat off. So you do not want this going down your drain because all of those fat particles are going to cool and solidify, and nobody likes cleaning a clogged drain. So one of the things that I like to do, because this is obviously quite hot, is kind of swirl it around. So if there's any of the, the oil that's kind of up on the side of the pans there on the pan, to kind of get that. And then to loosen anything that's still kind of stuck, I love to use this little brush, works really well. And so I just kind of run this around, and it is really hot water, so don't go ahead and, don't splash it up on your skin. This was just at a boil. And so I just will kind of use this and swirl that around. And then I dump this outside our front door, anywhere except your sink. So you can see how dirty that is. That's how much dirt there was in there. We actually have right outside our front door some weeds that I'm trying to kill. So hot water hopefully kills off the buttercups. But it definitely then won't be clogging our drains. So now we've gotten the majority. There's still a little bit of grease left on here, but not very much. So you want to make sure that you're using hot tap water. We never ever want to use cold water on a hot cast iron pan. Even though cast iron is very, very durable, you can still crack it if you do an extreme temperature shock. And a really hot pan that had boiling water to cold water could potentially do that. So I just let this run and get nice and hot. And then I'm just gonna kind of swirl this back around here. And now it's cooled off considerably, but it's still warm. So it's still lifting up some of that extra, those little grease particles there. So I'm just gonna kind of swirl that to pick anything out that was on there. And this is where I will actually just go ahead and use my dish rag. It doesn't have any soap on it. And I'm just gonna kind of wipe along the bottom here to get any of that extra grease up into the hot water. And then again, I'm gonna go dump this outside, not down my drain, because there's still fat in here. So now we've just went through 2 rinsings of hot water, and you can see as you look in here, there's no grease that's left. There's no food particles left. There's nothing left in this pan. It's completely clean, and it's still shiny. And so that's the key. When you still see the shine, then that means you haven't affected your seasoning at all. I don't need to add any extra oil or anything to this. I just need to wipe it dry. You never want to put your cast iron away wet because it can rust. So I'm just gonna take a cloth here, wipe that out. And because I can still see some of the shine on here, I don't even need to add any extra oil right now. It just goes right back on the stove and is ready to use for whatever else we decide to cook up. Now, sometimes you'll have where you have actual food really stuck on your cast iron pan. So this can happen with scrambled eggs. It can definitely happen if you use it to do baked goods in. This is my sourdough brownies. And let me tell you, if you are not using your cast iron pan to do baked goods in, you are totally missing out. It's the only way that I bake brownies anymore is in a cast iron pan. But you can get stuff that's stuck on. And because we're not using soap, how are you gonna get this off? Well, I used to use a salt scrub. So a salt scrub can be a great way that is abrasive enough that it can help scrub stuff out, but it doesn't damage or scratch your seasoning or your finish off. However, I have since found a much better way to get anything that's stuck on, that doesn't come off with just a little bit of heat and hot water, and that is one of these bad boys. So this is actually a wooden dough bowl scraper. I, in the past, had plastic ones, but I used mine a lot. And in using it to clean my cast iron, especially if the pan was a little bit warm or I'm putting pressure, they would warp. And I don't really like to use a ton of plastic in the kitchen if I can help it. So my husband is a woodworker. He works at a sawmill. And after he saw what had happened over just a couple of months use with the plastic one, I'm like, can you please make me a wooden one? So he made me this wooden one, and it works fabulous as both a dough scraper, but really works well for cleaning your cast iron pan. So here you can see I've got just different stuck on. I had this area really stuck on the brownies. So you're just gonna take the sharp edge of this, and we're just going to scrape that off. What's really nice about this, because it's already rounded, so that it will go and scrape out a bowl when you have wet, sticky dough. It'll also do the same thing along the edges of your cast iron pan here. So I can really just get in there and scrape that clean. So now you could just eat this part if you wanted to, or you can toss it out, whatever you choose to do with the crumbs. So after we have dumped out our crumbs, there's a little bit left on the bottom here from baking. So at this point, I actually will just use hot tap water, and we're just going to rinse this clean really quick. And you can still go ahead and use this. And then again, there's not anything left on there. That didn't really have any fat in it from the baked good, but we're just gonna dry that. And you can still see there's a little bit of a sheen, which we're always looking for. If this were to be really matte and dull, then I would just take a little bit of oil and smear it on there before the next use, but it doesn't even need it at this point. This one is good to go. So really just heat hot water, and then a little bit of either scraping or scrubbing with the brush or with this, depending on what it is that you've got in your pan. It's really all you need in order to keep your cast iron pans in great shape. And the scraper is the thing that comes in the most handy, especially when it's really stuck on food. And if you're interested in getting some of these, my husband is actually making a very small run of these dough scrapers that also work fabulous for cleaning cast iron. So if you are interested when we have these available, it'll be a very small amount. You can get on the notify list. There's a link below the video, and you can just go there, pop your name and email in, and then as soon as we have some of these available, I will send out a notice to you. And you can see if your cast iron pan is seasoned correctly from the beginning, they are actually very, very easy to clean. But if you don't have a good seasoning, it's gonna make the cleaning process harder. Or if you haven't been cleaning them right, go and check out this video to learn how to properly season your cast iron.